guys, it's easy to pee generally, right? So you find like a bush you can stand against. But when a guy stands in a bush and is peeing in the bush, it looks like he's peeing in a bush, right? The real pro move for a guy is you get down on one knee.
No.
And you pee.
But you
and
could be putting your knee where someone's peed.
No. You don't put your knee on the ground. But you get down as if you're on one knee. It's a little bit of extra mobility, strength training. But you basically look down. It looks like you're kneeling down to tie your shoelace. And then you pee right there, right? This is a total pro move.
No,
like, I know at least one listener here who is for sure, like, when he listens to this podcast, is smiling and be like, yeah.
Welcome back to Two Average Runners. It is episode 20. Can you believe it, Hugh?
I can't, Alice. It's exciting. Episode 20. Very few podcasts get to episode 20.
Is that true?
We're still here.
So me, Alice, and my friend on the other side of the Atlantic, Hugh.
Yes.
But I believe you're coming to Wales soon, are you, for
I am, yes. We're doing a family trip in a few weeks now. Last couple of weeks of August, and already gearing up to a big endurance event, 2 days at Legoland.
Oh yeah, there we go. That's endurance for you. Okay, very exciting.
Yeah.
So how have you been? Give us your scores for the week in training.
Cool. Like, I think it's still like family scores, like a 9 out of 10. You know, I think last week I'd been away for a week for my Colorado adventure. So this has been a week back in town. This has been a week of sort of summer fun.
Nice.
Took Henry to SeaWorld, which was an
endurance in Texas.
Yeah, there's SeaWorld. There's like 3 SeaWorlds in America. There's one in San Diego. There's a big one in Texas. And of course, these days they're a big, you know, they've gone through a large, you know, saga in their history. Anyway, so they're very focused on conservation and the story and awareness and stuff. But anyway, there's one here, and there's like Henry gets a free season pass to SeaWorld for like preschoolers under 5 who are local residents. So I got him one of that. I got one for me. They had a summer deal, and so we went along for the day, and it was an endurance event, Alex. I mean, it was like we looked at a lot of animals. We saw the killer whales. That's like the famous show there where they jump and they do all these tricks and cool things. But they tell a lot of story about how like the sort of more veterinarian aspects of like how they care for them and all the conservation. So, and then we went to the water park. And then the funny thing is Henry chose 2. There's 2 interesting things about it. One, he chose a big roller coaster to go on, which I was really skeptical of. And afterwards, he said it was too scary and he didn't like it. But he was determined to go on it. And then he wanted to go on this really big like slide. It was like one of these slides where you jump, you like up to 2 to 4 people can go in this little raft, and the raft goes down the slide in the water park. And he picked it. It was called like Stingray Falls or something like that. And it wasn't, honestly, Alice, it was, I guess, this peak summer, right? It took us an hour in the line. And 3 times I said to him, I was like, do you really want to do this?
That's crazy.
I was like, do you really want to do this? Like, he's like, yep, I really want to do it. And it was cool. I had no phone because like the phone was in a locker because I didn't have anything to like, you know, stop it get wet.
You just were there standing in a queue.
So we were just hanging with, and we were playing I Spy and doing stuff. So anyway, it was like I would say this past week from a family perspective has been wholesome. Good. Family fun. And then from a training perspective, like I said, that was its own endurance day, you know, 8 hours at the theme park and the water park. And I've been sort of easing back into training. Saw my strength trainer, been getting some mobility and some couple of strength sessions in. Got on a bike on the Peloton, did a like a 90-minute Peloton workout. I think while I was watching some Tour de France, it was over the weekend. It was one of the last stages, so that's always good. Like they're going up like Alpe d'Huez or one of those, and like I'm on the bike. Yeah, let's go, right? You know. And then I got my first run in post my big adventure, and it was on trails. It was later in the day, so it was hot and sunny, and I was pretty slow, Alice. I won't lie, but you know, so the body is a little slow coming back to it. Certainly coming. I was like, oof, like my body really does not want to run hard in any way. But
how do you feel compared to like coming off Leadville or one of the races? I was wondering if you feel
it's a
as
great
knackered
question.
Or kind of the same. Also because it was such it sounded like it was a big strain physically, you know, with the altitude. It's kind of wondering, are you going to be more knackered than usual? Or how have you felt it?
It's actually a great question. I feel like for the first few days, I definitely was feeling the breathing, like for the week, like going upstairs and weird stuff. I was like, why am I huffing and puffing going up a stairs? Like, it's like I'm not an athlete or something. Even though I'm an average runner, I shouldn't be huffing and puffing going upstairs. But I think I wasn't as mentally destroyed in any way.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
nervous is sometimes after I've done some of these really big events, I mean, a really hard marathon or a big
Yeah.
event like Leadville, my whole nervous system can be wrecked,
Yeah.
you know, and like sleep is weird and like weird, and then the mind really being like, wow, you kind of went there.
Yeah.
Obviously I had that big first day, but it doesn't, so I'm not feeling that, but the body, it was like I don't think I put my body through that much climbing and descending before. And so
Okay.
that's the thing, I think, where it's like just more residual fatigue and sort of the
Yeah.
legs and stuff, you know. But yeah, we're back. How about you? How was your week been?
It has been on the sort of personal work, family side. It has been a difficult week. Moved again. So I've moved, twice in the last, I don't know, just over a month. So that's always stressful and a lot going on sort of personal side. I don't mind sharing that. It has been a lot.
Yeah.
But, sort of somehow you carry on every day. You sort of pick yourself up and find a way forward. Training wise, great actually. So I did one of those big marathon pace blocks into 5K, into marathon pace block. This weekend, my friend was there at Battersea Park in his black hot pants clapping and cheering me.
It's the same Battersea Park.
Yeah,
it's like the scene of the crime.
That guy is there and he's clapping
there.
me. Yeah, he's clapping me.
Have you actually introduced yourself? Do you know his name yet?
No, and I'm not going that far. Because the funny thing about it is that he first ignores me for the first 2 or 3 loops because he runs in the opposite direction. It only seems later on, maybe like towards the end of his workout, when he's sort of standing on the side, he gives me a big clap and...
Is he being genuine or is he being genuine with his clapping?
I think so.
Maybe
it
takes him like a few laps to break down, like to sort of be fatigued.
Yeah, he's being a bit cool first.
He's trying to be too cool, trying to be like true composed, but then finally he's tired, fatigued.
The first few weekends, it was like that as well. He almost like looks in the other direction when you come past because we always run the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then he sort of warms up and then I don't know whether sometimes he's with other people and then he's trying to, but
anyway, he didn't
run in. He didn't start running with me yet. He hasn't repeated that.
Okay.
But he is clapping. Anyway,
he is clapping.
All good.
But do you ever see, do you ever see the
We haven't, I haven't seen him on Strava yet.
You haven't seen, and he hasn't because you go in different directions. So, like sometimes Strava will group you with other people, like in a race.
We have not been grouped. I've been grouped with all sorts of people, but I've not been grouped with him. But anyway, it is very hilarious. But I've started a bit of a wave of sort of, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming through.
It's like not the royal wave. It's like we've got the royal wave for you too, but it's like we've got the Alice wave.
So funny. So anyway, I was back in Battersea. Didn't mess up the timings because, sometimes I'm too busy talking or I'm thinking there isn't a park run. Got myself to park run in time and I had a bit of banter with the guys at the start. Got myself a little bit further forward to the start than I'd had before. And off we went and I broke 19 minutes for the first time. So I went...
That's huge. So but that means it was a PR. Firstly, a PR is a PR. PR is a PR.
I haven't gone
PB is a
19.
PB. But you broke 19. That's huge, Alex.
Yeah, so I actually think that's sort of good because the average pace was 3:47 per K. And I think I'm just there's a couple of things. Getting fitter.
Yeah.
Getting better at the racing.
Yeah.
And knowing the 5K better, because we've spoken about this quite a few times, not knowing when can I push, when can't I. So now I know. I almost didn't look at my watch at all because I was having a Garmin nightmare day. It was lapping at weird times. It lost the workout. So I kind of lapped it just at the start and then pressed start again for the 5K. So I didn't really look at my watch. I went on effort because I'm getting used to knowing how it should feel. And it was quite fast. It came out at like a 3:47. I was like, fine, I don't need to push too hard, 3:48. And then the last K, I now know that kilometer 4 is the worst. And that's when you have to push.
Yes.
Because you have to back yourself that when you get to the last kilometer, you will be bad, but it's over quite fast. And now I also know the loop quite well. So I'm also doing a thing where I'm like, it's just to the bandstand. It's just to the pond. It's just to the recycling bins, whatever it is. It's just round that corner rather than thinking too much about kilometers. But I do know as soon as it hits 3.5, 4 kilometers, that kilometer is the one that you absolutely cannot back off. And then you just back yourself that everybody is trying to drive in the last kilometer hard. So a girl came past me, quite a young girl, very strong. And she was gunning it. And I just thought, okay, just try and stick to her. So it really helped me push 3:43 for the last. So it's okay if your second or third kilometer is not as fast, but then, so I think, because this is a topic that's coming so much, when do you know when to push, when to hold back? I think it's coming with the experience.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I also know, okay, it will be interesting because I'm curious because another race is coming up at some stage. Next time, I'm going to go out a little bit faster.
I was going to say, well, it sounds like what you really need now. What I want to hear now is I want to hear an explosion. I want to hear like you go out
much harder,
too hard, just to know. Because so far you haven't. Yeah, so far you don't know what the limit is. You don't yet know what the limit. I love the analogy that thing about the fourth K out of the 5K. I always like this little. Not mnemonic, that's the wrong word. Little mantra. The last one before the last one. The last one before the last one is always the one like, you got to go now. Because like the last one always takes care of itself. So and then what I've tried to do sometimes another workout, say it's like, maybe less than like 5, but like if it's like, is always like the last one before the last one before the last one. Like, so once you start to know that you're going to push the last one before the last one, then you go to the one before that, like, I got to go with this one as well. Because like I've got, and it might not work. With 5K, it doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, I think 5K technique, the more I look into it, you do try and stay contained for the first 3.
Yeah.
You have to go hot, fairly hot, but you have to push the fourth and just trust that the 5th. And it's really quite interesting because there's a guy that I follow called Spencer Matthews who has a podcast called Untapped. He's done loads of endurance events.
Yeah, I think I've
But
seen
he's
that.
trying to go from a 2:57 marathon to a 2:45, and he's being trained by Stephen Scullion, was the Irish marathon record holder, 2 hours 09 until this year.
Okay.
So, he's a bit of an older runner now, but he's really experienced. So they've got a whole vlog going. And Spencer lives near Battersea, so you always see him down there. And he had come down to Parkrun to see if he could break 18 because he's faster running than me and much stronger. But he was down there with his mates at the front. And I just watched his vlog today. He's basically retching and throwing up at the end. And I'm like, I'm nowhere near that. I'm like, that's a full send. That's a full send. So that's quite interesting. And I'm also doing it after half an hour of marathon pace. So I've done 20 minutes warm up. I've done 4Ks of warm up. And then I've done, 7, 8Ks at marathon pace. And then I'm coming to parkrun. And then I'm still doing another half hour of marathon pace afterwards, which my legs were quite tired. And so that was very good marathon training. Yeah. So it did make me think, okay, sometime I'll definitely want to do a pure race where I've just warmed up only and then full send it. And
that's exactly, I'm really, and then also you might find out, like a lot of people say that like they need a longer warm up. So like a 2-mile warm up doesn't do it. So you might want to warm up and then you do want strides and maybe you do want a little bit of marathon, maybe not like 8K of marathon pace. Effort,
no, but definitely.
But yeah, so I think I love the way you can actually find out, because if you do one without the marathon pace effort, you'll know like actually my body needs to be like warmed up more.
No, and so maybe it's somewhere in between. Coach this week. Yeah. And so that's the other thing we've been thinking about is because I also noticed I always take now Monday as a rest day.
Okay.
Because I had normally Saturday is a hard session, Sunday's a long run, Monday's a rest day. And I've never ever taken rest days in my life. But my physio has spoken to me about this is how you absorb the training.
Yes.
So I actually been starting to look forward to it. But what I do notice is on Tuesday, it's very hard to get back into it.
Oh, always.
So I'm also starting to notice that I think as a taper person, I think I shouldn't over taper because I almost get too sluggish with too much rest.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I think I need a decent warm up. Maybe it's also because I'm 47. I cannot just go into a hard session without really being properly warmed up. I think it's too much of a shock on my body. Some people, they do like a 10-minute jog and then they hit the 5K. I'm like, no, I'm definitely doing better pushing myself more in the start, in the warm up.
It's really interesting this, and it's like so much about this is like there's so much training philosophy and things that are like things that work, and then there's this individualized piece of like finding what works for you. I know, like, and I was thinking about this. This past week I've been doing a fair bit of yoga. to try to get back into things. And I realized that like there's a lot of people who think yoga is great for running, other people think it's terrible for running. I don't care either way. What I have noticed is like it generally works for me. There was a period, I remember in 2022 when I was training for one of my big races there, I was in a good groove. I would do like a quick 20-minute like mini Peloton yoga class before key long runs. And I think I actually think before my like Beacons Way 100, I'm fairly sure I got up and I'd found one 20-minute like little routine that I really liked that was probably good for like, you know, the hips. And
so
like,
maybe it's
you know,
just the mobility part.
The mobility, yes, it was definitely more mobility than like, it's not just like, oh, a nice little yoga flow. It's like more of like, and then between that and then obviously doing some actual like running was actually working well. And so I want to experiment a bit more with like that sort of more of a 10-20 minute actual routine for my stretch, my mobility.
And
like
actually the Stephen Scullion character that I'm following is quite interesting. He also, I signed up to his masterclass and he does he does 20 minutes at least of stuff before he goes out the door. And I think we spoke about this before. I think the professional athletes, they do banded exercises, they do some other activations, they do mobility, they do a bit of rolling. I'm like, you know, get out of bed, toast and banana, coffee, go to the loo, put the kit on, and then expect to just start, you know, get going. So I think, you know, maybe we could all do a little bit more. It's just a time thing.
I was really good at one point when I was doing more group runs where I didn't want to be late. I would always get there 10 minutes early and I had a band in my car. And I did some banded stuff for firing up the glutes. And then I did, you know, various leg swings and or like lunges to like things you just do holding your car kind of thing. And it was natural because you could do it while, if some people are there, you can talk, whatever. But I realized lately, just life, I have like not been doing those group runs, not been doing the banded warm-ups, doing more the like, okay, now's the time to run, go out the door and expect it to be. And we're not spring chickens, Alice. We gotta warm these strong,
we are not
maturing bodies.
But I have a half marathon next weekend, so we can update you on that. And there I'm going to try and go out at a decent pace so we can, you know, because I think what keeps coming up is this theme of knowing when to hold back, when not to, when to push. And I think we've been having, you know, some chats with listeners about this. I think there was something you wanted to share with us about that.
We've had a few listeners reach out and sort of like inspired or in reaction to some of the sharing you've been doing, because this has been so great. This has been like a focused set of experiments where you've been doing this. Like it's fine in the one. Most times we do 1 5K and then maybe we're like back into some of the training.
No, my coach is so insistent on this.
Your coach.
I actually had to ask her, could we not do it this weekend? I just need a break. She's like, why are we not doing it? Is it because you're too scared? I said, no, it's kind of logistics. And she's like, okay. But then we're back to it again after your half. I'm like, okay.
Well, she obviously has some method in her madness. But so I'm going to read a little bit of one of the listener comments about it. It said, Alice, your holding back issue sounds very familiar. I don't think it's a male-female thing, though I couldn't rule it out being more common in one gender than another. For me, I suspect it's connected to people-pleasing, approval-seeking. We all like kudos, virtual and real, and backpack. And so this is the thing that I thought was really interesting. This listener then went to said is like, I've had races where I held back, only given full sin when land is numerically in sight and I'm 100% sure I have enough gas in the tank to let rip to the end. And this is what really landed for me. The worst thing for me would have been to not complete that marathon, since most friends and family won't know or care about the difference between finishing 10 or 20 minutes faster or slower. But they'll know if I blow up and DNF. And I think that's kind of interesting. And I sort of get it. It's quite like most people, they don't give a shit about our times. So I think this is actually a good, but it's interesting here. This person is in some ways limiting themselves because ultimately to their people pleasing, he says he wants to be able to like finish and like, you know, get the kudos for like the marathon done. I
kind of don't want to mess up and then put yourself at risk of a DNF and then you just look like a moron.
Whereas I actually think that like you and I sometimes think like we almost think sometimes we're very driven by achieving
time.
and time as in like as a metric, as a measure for like progress, and like we're trying to get better every day, every race, etc. And so when that doesn't happen, I almost think that having certainly for me, like Leadville last year, I DNF'd at mile 70 because I was all the times and all my game plan, all the original plans were out the window.
Yeah.
And for me, I just didn't have it in me to walk it in for 30 miles just to get a finish.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the right attitude or not, but it's, so anyway, I think this holding back's really cool. I do think that it's like, I definitely thinking back at that Leadville, because I was comparing this recent high altitude adventure to last year. It is harder altitude. I think it's a lot easier to go out a bit harder than you expect, even though heart rate's in the right place, all those things. But I do think sometimes you have to go harder and have a train wreck and sort of like to learn and sort of like try to calibrate. So it's a journey, but I love hearing these listener questions like that.
Yeah,
and
it's really
Alice,
great. It's really
I want the Alice explosion blow up or the Alice retching at the finish line, story.
I don't think I still think as an athlete, I am somebody who I take longer to warm up. I take longer to get going. I actually feel much better sort of an hour and a half into a run than early on. I've kind of always been that way. And then I like to sort of push through at the end. So I think it is my style. Yeah. I still think a negative split is the best, but I do think there's something about in the second half, could you have gone harder? And then in a okay, that kind of doesn't really count. And you still go faster at the end, but how fast can you start? And then, and not, So, but the other thing I think that I'm learning is the running on feel more. So even my marathon pace block, because my watch was doing weird things, I just know what marathon effort is. And my coach spoke to me this week and said, we really want to get you to a place where we take the heart rate off your home screen during races. So you don't panic when you see it shooting through the roof, and you go on what your effort is. And if the effort seems to be a bit slower, then okay, well, maybe today isn't the day, but you don't try and just only look at pace. You kind of knowing in yourself, this is what my marathon-based effort should feel like. And this is just experience, only experience. So I think that's quite cool. So I feel like I'm getting to know myself better. And I think that same listener in his message had said something around, and this is the problem I also have, is you don't know how many races you've got left because you're getting older. So you don't want to, that's what I'm feeling like, I've messed up 2 marathons or 3 marathons, I feel. And how many more am I going to get? Like, I've got to get this right, but then that's that added layer of pressure, etc. So anyway, we'll keep this dialogue going, because I think we'll like learning a bit from each other.
This is a huge amount of maturity I'm hearing from you about this. I have heard, there's a whole thing about like marathons is interesting because there is an element in there where you want to sort of like lock in or dial in the actual mechanical feel of a particular pace. Yeah. And then get it so in there so that it can just like sustain it for a long time. But on any given day, if this is a day where the purpose of the workout is this particular kind of effort, let's say it's marathon effort, and if you're having a rough day and it's hot and all these conditions and you haven't slept so well, hitting marathon paces may turn marathon effort into essentially like a threshold workout.
5K, 10K.
It's like a threshold, or maybe it's turned into like a sort of a mini VO2 max workout in some way and I know David Roach is a big one on this one of like most of their plans have the effort, which is also harder when you say 5K effort moving down to 3K effort, like that is quite an advanced thing to know, like, okay, what is 5K effort versus a 3K effort? How do like particularly 10K effort going to 5K? Sometimes there's like that's actually pretty subtle and pretty like, so I love it, Alice. I like it. The Garmin, the Garmin Gremlin actually did us a good one on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and other than that, I will just say, I know because we're both cycling fans.
Yes.
Pogačar, Tour de France, was just really, even though race was decided quite early on, I thought it was just wonderful. Very interesting things happening with Pogačar helping Del Toro on that second to last day. And actually our friend Lance Armstrong and Bradley Wiggins, Sir Bradley and Hincapie, they were a little bit like, come on. You can drop him and take the stage. And he did. And I enjoyed that discussion around, should he have been, what would you have done? Would you have just gone for another stage win? Would you have tried to help your colleague get on the podium? But anyway, I just thought it was just exciting. there was some great sprint finishes on the final day. I mean, how often you don't always get that. So yeah, I think, but so now I've got a bit of a hole in my life with Tour de France being over.
I've been reflecting a lot about this Pogačar. I mean, so the first thing is he's so head and shoulders above everyone else. The one thing I want to note, a little digression, like there's been a whole, like, as any time is cycling, when there's like when there's someone dominant or dominant performances, like Tadej broke the record on Alpe d'Huez by like a couple of minutes. It was Pantani's record, and Pantani had like 1, 2, 3, 4 fastest times there. Pantani, famed doper as well in his time. So like there's always this specter of doping. And what I love about it is like these things where they talk about with Tadej, when Tadej got interviewed, you know, when he won the Tour de France, not by accident, he'd come on the scene in 2019 and got third at the Vuelta. And everyone's like, who's this kid from Slovenia?
Yes.
And then he was in the Tour for UAE, had a terrible team. He was kind of on his own the whole tour. Roglic was on Jumbo Visma. He was kind of the dominant, you know, Tadej had a stage win or two and was sort of with him, but like, and then basically, obviously, Tadej beat him on that last stage and really sort of like did whereas Roglic cracked. And in Tadej's interview, post-race interview, 2020, this is like sort of like late, you know, this is one of the COVID tour, the first COVID tour, everyone masked up, trying to like in their bubbles, try not to get like, and he gets asked, you know, in the post-race interview, and he says, I'd like to thank my parents. And, you know, everyone's going to like, for getting me on a bike when I was 3 years old and taking me to training camps and all these, like all this kind of like, you know.
Sacrificing,
and he's like,
working two jobs to buy my bike.
I'd like to thank my parents for the genes they've given me. And so he knew in 2020 that he had won the physiological lottery. Like he knew that. And when people talk about, he was just kind of riding. I mean, he rode a lot. He had like he didn't have a good training plan and structure. And so he won those first 2 tours. Then he got beat by Jonas, you know. And then I think it was in 2023 or 2024, he switched trainers. And apparently since then, that's when he started to dial in everything, the training, the nutrition, etc. So that's why you've seen him improve as well, because he wasn't perfect when he came on the scene. He was just incredibly talented, and obviously he put work in, but it wasn't like he wasn't doing the marginal gains. He hadn't optimized every little thing.
And I think that came up, didn't it, in Lance's last podcast, where they brought on whatever his name is, and they were talking about other riders. Yeah, they brought on Johan, and they were talking about other riders, and he said, no, that guy is young, but he's kind of already as optimized as you get.
Seychelles, Paul Seychelles, the sort
and
of
he
future
said, whereas
French.
exactly Pogačar, he even still now, he gained 2 kilograms, he's worked in the gym, he's done lots more VO2 max stuff.
Yeah, apparently only the last year or two, Pogačar started to do strength training consistently.
Yeah, so
like
apparently he's gained 2 kgs and he looks much stronger.
Yeah.
So I thought Tour de France was great. And the stats I also thought were interesting on him is that he's 27 now. First tour was when he was 20, so pretty young. And he's been on the podium every single time. Only twice has he not won.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
So
the best post-race interview I've seen from him, the snippet I saw was, they said, how does it feel to be in the 5 club, 5 tour victory club? He said, well, I don't like clubbing, so let's get out of this club. So there we go.
That's hilarious. So I got one more thing to say about Pogačar, which I thought was really interesting, because in this tour...
Pogačar. You got to say Pogačar, not Pogačar. You're sounding like the Americans. Pogačar. You got to think Pogačar. You got to think...
Pogačar.
You got to think today Pogačar, Tadej Pogačar. That's
today Pogačar. Today Pogačar for Tadej Pogačar.
There you go.
The thing that so I think he won how many stages? Did he win 5 stages in this tour or 6?
I think so, yeah. Maybe 6.
And the point is they said like he basically gifted that stage to Del Toro on day 2.
Yeah.
And where he sort of really teed him up and then let him, like really sort of like encouraged him. But like he could have gone past at any point, but he really wanted him to win his first stage. And then he could have, there was like at least one of there was the stage where Remco won, where he was dragging Del Toro up. If he'd wanted to, he could have gone and dropped Remco, won that stage, and then he could have won on the Galibier, is what they're saying. Like the last stage, like he could have gone ahead and just like probably and ridden down Carapaz. Because then they were saying if he'd
The
have done
second last
that,
stage, not the Montmartre.
yeah, no, sorry, not the last stage, the
Champs-Élysées,
Saturday stage, yeah, not the Champs-Élysées, but the.
Yeah.
And so they said he was like, that would have put him at 8 stage victories in a tour, which is the record. And he's already now, I think, at like 27 stage victories. And the famous one is like 35 stages is Mark Cavendish. And it sounds like they're like, he doesn't care about that, right? Because it's like, if he really cared, I want to beat 35, he could have got 3 more, would have gone 3 more. And so I just think it's like, when we're bringing it back to the average runners and me and you, it's like, why do we do this stuff? And it's really interesting. He appeared to be taking like sometimes there's rivalry on teams. Usually, like there's like if there was a movie, if you remember back in the day, Highlander. You know, the guy with the big sword, and the whole frame was like there can only be one Highlander, right? You know, usually there can only be one leader in a team, right? Before it's like. It's kind of amazing that Tadej is like willing to, he clearly has an amazing relationship with Del Toro and he wanted him to do well. And they were like crossing the line arm in arm on that one stage where he helped him, you know, secure his 3rd place, you know, the 3rd place on the podium. I just think it's really, there's clearly for him some big why about Del Toro, the team, achieving something through others, not just like, he obviously wants to win and he clearly wanted to win at Alpe d'Huez and destroy the record. But it's fascinating, like what are your motivations? What are the why?
Yeah,
anyway,
it's interesting.
So there, a great Tour de France.
And, you know, we won't go on about him for too much longer, but that's where I would say maybe it's different from somebody like Lance Armstrong, because I think what I'm picking up is Tadej Pogačar loves cycling and he loves racing, but he loves doing it with the people that he enjoys. He said that for him, the enjoyment is the people around him and he just loves cycling. He loves it.
Yes.
And I think that's where maybe he just, some of it, where he's got a slightly different competitive edge. I mean, obviously he's very competitive, is around the team stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. The fact, on that last stage, the fact that he was attacking, like Lance said, like they took the time before they started those loops up to Montmartre, the Sacré-Cœur. And so, like Lance said, I would have just sat up with the team. Like Lance was, all Lance cared about was winning the Tour. Whereas Tadej just likes to race the bike with the people. Like, and that was the thing. It was the Galacticos.
What's-his-face should have thanked him.
Van der Poel. Oh no, Matthew did. I saw them hugging at the finish line.
Did he thank him?
They were hugging.
He wouldn't have won that without.
He would never have won that. Okay. But at one point,
I was like, "Come on, dude."
They were at one point the 4 of them. It was Tadej, Mathieu, it was Pedersen, and it was Remco. All of those have been world champions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like that. It was like the creme de la creme, like hammering it out on the last stage, which is usually the processional stage of the Tour de France, which is a nothing burger. So. What are we going to do now that the tour's over, Alice?
Well, let's ask you what you're going to be doing. Well, let's maybe think first before that. I'm curious to know, you've done quite a few of these big events, which, you know, are a bit different to the stuff that I do, which are more just the marathons. What are you thinking now in terms of kind of recovery?
Yes.
What are you learning this time? I'm curious to know where you're at with the recovery stuff.
So for me, I definitely give myself some grace in that first sort of week or so. So like there was no ego to get back running or to get back doing anything specifically. I definitely try to, you know, fuel in that first week. They do say that after these big events, your metabolism is ramped.
Yeah.
So I did. But then I like to get back on the program. Like for me, what goes badly is if that thing becomes 3 weeks, and then for me, it can end up being like I sort of overeat or just eat like all bets are off kind of thing. So I'm back on the fueling app.
Okay,
which I'm excited about. And then
I'm loving that app. But anyway,
I love that. I love that app.
Yeah, it's so good.
And then I'm starting to visualize the next adventure, the next race, an actual race, and starting to getting back to training. And for me, there's often this, what I've realized for me, yoga is often this kind of like gateway back into training.
Gateway drug to training.
Yeah, it's sort of a gateway. It's an on-ramp. It's sort of like going to yoga, the gateway drug. I wouldn't say it's a gateway drug, but it's like this gateway. It's like
the next
bridge.
event.
Yoga is like the bridge back into training, where it's like I really start to feel more aware of my body. Like when I was in yoga, I realized that I have some tightness in my left sort of ankle, Achilles. Like that's the one place that's like most sore, and I only really tuned into it in a particular pose in yoga. It's like, oh, that's the one place that's like So getting into the yoga, I've been seeing my strength trainer twice now. I mean, that's great. And he's helping me recovery, like what's still hurting. And we're really keying into like, we're doing lots of single leg stuff right now because we're not doing heavy weights at all. But like, where is there any kind of like weakness or lack of stability, or could be like strengthening in the hips or like control or so? Yeah. So it's like that's sort of the gateway, and then I'm actually excited to get back on a plan towards an actual race event.
Any ideas what it's going to be?
I think I do. I think I do, and it's kind of it's sort of this next phase. I've had my mountain adventure, right? So now I want to get back to running. You know, I feel like I've got I don't know if I've actually got slow, but I've been doing more slower activities the last 6 months. I now want to take that strength, get back into like quality running. So I think I'm signing up for a race in November called the Rio del Lago 100 miler.
Okay, wow. Nice.
And so you're going to interesting one's this one. So it's 100 miler in California, so no altitude.
Okay,
it's on the bottom half. Some of it is on some of the bottom or the last sort of quarter of the Western States course. So it's generally quite runnable. Over 100 miles, 12,000 feet of vertical. Remember, I did 12,000 in day one, like almost 12,000 in day one. I nearly died.
Yes.
So I nearly died. I didn't die. Don't tell my mom. I didn't nearly die. I was just, the alarm bells were going off. And so it's a quite runnable course. It's popular, but not, it was a very well-known course for many years where people go to run their first 100 miler. What's nice is it's a 30-hour cutoff. So that should be like, I'm expecting to run this race not really thinking about pace. And like it's really running on effort and running well. But this is the real kick, Alice. The first 23 miles are actually on a sort of a loop out on a paved footpath, like a towpath. And so I think I've heard people say it's like you kind of rock the alpha flies for the first 23 miles of this 100 miler. And then after
and then change your shoes.
And then you change your shoes. You sort of finish that loop, that road sort of lollipop. And then people then tend to change to trail shoes. And even then, they're going to be trail shoes that, you know, you can run quicker in, not like rugged mountain
hiking
shoes.
Boots. But
yeah, not the rugged stuff that's like I would have had, like at Hard Rock, I really had really rugged stuff because there was so much scree fields and all this sorts of stuff. So anyway, so that's what I'm getting excited. But it's you know, without a doubt, that is a running 100 miler. That's not a mountainous 100 miler. That's not hiking. Like, I'm sure I may hike a few short hills, particularly if I'm tired, but like that is a race I'm planning to like run, you know, 90+% of that race.
Exciting.
So, yeah.
Brilliant. Just while you're talking about shoes, it just popped into my mind. It's the Commonwealth Games at the moment. And I also follow a bit of Andy Butchart. He was doing the 10,000 meters on track. You know, he's a Scottish. He's been to Olympics twice, and he's quite a funny character to follow. Nice Scottish, you know, sort of Scottish humor and personality. He didn't do as well as he wanted to in the race, but it was absolutely hammering it down with rain as it only can in Glasgow. Yes. To the point that one of the athletes came 7th. I think he basically lost a shoe and a sock. Honestly, I think a spike. Yeah, basically like one of the spikes came off and then half a sock, and he managed to still finish in 7th place.
Incredible.
Because it was raining that much. I was just thinking about changing shoes, thinking that guy needed to stop and change his shoes, but there's not much time in a 10,000 meters.
No,
so that was quite amusing.
So that's the thing. And then I'm almost thinking as well of if I can find something that's not too traveling, it would be really cool to do a 50 miler in the build up as a training race, not like go to the well, but just to build sort of like just the mental thing. That would be a long day. Yeah. So, and it all builds like to sort of, Alice, you know, we need to get organized. Actually, we've got to get on that start line for comrades. We got to make sure
we don't do that, let's do the cycling Le Tap, whatever. It's the one day of the Tour de France. The 180 Ks, it looks brutal. We can always do that.
It does look brutal. Do you know which stage they did this year? Do you know which stage they did? The Galibier?
It's one of the very bad.
One of the very bad. So my brother-in-law,
180 Ks of hell.
Shout out to my brother-in-law. He's done that a couple of times, like, you know, a decade or more. He did one of the ones with the Le Tap when it went over the Tourmalet. And he said it was cold and rainy and his hands were frozen. He almost couldn't break. And it's like, for me, the thing, like the climbing would be so bad in a good way. It would be like a massive grind. There's like sometimes like 10, 20 mile climbs or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if I would really like to do these like 10, 20-mile descents.
Oh, it's
I
the
like
downhill that also
the
scares me. And
scares
actually,
me
one of
on
the
the
running
bike.
guys
They're
I
going so
follow
fast.
said that's what he was most scared of. But he said you stop and you eat, like you have proper
Yeah.
eat, there's like tables with potatoes and
Oh,
stuff
yeah, that
'cause you're
sounds
on the
great.
bike for 9 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
yes.
that's our backup plan. Now, do we have some listeners'
I
questions?
think we do have some listener questions.
I think the first one,
Yes, you go ahead.
I'll jump in, is somebody that I used to know from back in the day in one of the gyms here in London.
Yes.
She has had a baby 10 months ago.
Yes.
And she's always been very strong, fit. She's been doing lots of Pilates, and I think even her Pilates training courses and all of these things before having her little boy. And she messaged me to say, "You're an experienced runner," which I thought, great. No one's just described me as that before, but she wanted some advice and I thought I'd bring it to the podcast. And I thought it'd be nice to just chat a little bit about this. So she's somebody who is strong and is fit and has been able to run, 10Ks, go out and run 10Ks in the past, but she's back running again, doing about 3 to 5Ks at a time. So she's still building up, but she is down to run Royal Park's half marathon in October. So it's kind of 11 weeks from now. And what were my sort of top tips and thoughts and advice? So we had a bit of back and forth on some voice notes.
Yes.
And one of the first things I said is, I think if you're coming from where you are now, one of the first things I'd advise is to decide, let's be realistic. How many times a week are you going to run, or would you like to run?
Yep.
So she said she'd like to do 4, but she accepts that sometimes it will be 3. And she'd like to still keep up with a bit of her strength.
Oh,
but of
great.
course, having a little one, you have to be flexible and adaptable.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I think the main thing is to go in with the mentality, I want to get as many consistent runs as I can. So most of your runs are going to be about it being easy. I said to her, but I stop all the time on my easy runs at the traffic light to get some water. I may even take my gel as standing if I'm on a long, easy run. There's no pressure to have to run the whole time. You can walk. What you want to do is have one run a week that you're building up that distance a little bit each time. But injuries come from doing the long run too soon. I mean, too much too soon on the long run.
Too much too soon, yes.
So I said, I think for some, if you're in this situation, all you're trying to do is build your mileage up slowly over the next 11, 12 weeks. Try and commit to your long run every week as getting a bit longer each time. Get yourself a decent pair of easy running everyday shoes.
Yeah.
And then maybe after 4 weeks, if you've had 4 consistent weeks, one of your runs, you'll do a minute harder 3 or 4 times, or 3 minutes harder 3 or 4 times. So you put a bit of interval stuff in, but I wouldn't even fuss about that too much. And then I did suggest even looking at the runner app, but I said, try and make it as conservative a setting as possible. So what do you do? Because I think the injury, what do you want to do? You want to get to the start line uninjured, being as consistent as you can, enjoying it, and get round the course.
Yes.
It's a great course. Why set yourself up for not enjoying it? You're pushing too hard. You're not allowing yourself to walk. You get injured. And then you say, this was the worst thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I even said, like, running tech-wise, get yourself a simple watch that you can see how far you've run, but don't obsess of the paces, all of those things. Yeah. I don't know what you think. Any thoughts on somebody who's going from, has been fit, but maybe isn't as fit as they'd like to be, getting to at least doing a half marathon?
Yeah. So I have 2 thoughts here, and none of them. So I have no expertise and attempt to understand like postpartum and that one. But I have listened to Megan Roach a lot on their podcast, talking about her journey and other journey. So the first one I say is like, trust your body and ignore anything anyone else is saying. In the sense of like, there are so much judgment and hate is like, you're coming back too soon, you're pushing too hard, you're, both in the pregnancy period where they're pregnant and still running versus like coming back postpartum. And I think, I encourage this listener to like trust, your friend to trust her body and to trust herself. And firstly, like cut out all the noise, like do what makes sense for her. So I think the second thing I would say is to just, as we often say, we think like, what's the why of this race?
True.
And I think I would guess, but I'm like, is that like you said, it's beautiful. It's the Royal Park. But what I'm guessing a big part of this why here is going to be holding her baby after she's crossed the finish line. I know the Royal Parks is pretty big.
But
so
it may also just be, I think for many women, it's also about getting back to who they were and
going back to who they were. Yeah, exactly. Being who they were, feeling
getting stronger again, and
exactly
all of that.
And so
stuff.
I think with that one, it's like getting clear on like what's the thing that's really like she's excited about, that's driving her, the sort of clear why.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
then to your point, then it's like when someone is coming back from either not being as trained, but they have capacity and whatnot. Like a lot of these run walk plans and run walk strategies, like people can run really fast half marathons with a run walk strategy, because that's that like, and often those, I'm not no expert in that one, but like 8 minutes of running and 2 minutes of walking, or 9 minutes running, 1 minute walking, often just that 1 or 2 minute break just break things up. And like I've seen people run fabulous like races and felt strong through the end and felt like they sort of like continued, rather than they run really hard and then rather than they do the run walk strategy where they run for 18 miles and then they walk for, or 20, they run for 20 miles and they walk for 6 miles.
And the other thing I did say too is when you start running more than an hour, more than 75 minutes, start trying out different gels, learn how to do that, get your water in, practicing all those things. So it was just nice to think back to, how one would go from there to doing the half. Because I think a half marathon's a great distance. It's very doable.
Great distance. Very great distance. What a wonderful challenge.
It's not going to absolutely wreck you, but it's such an achievement to do it. So I'm excited for her. So
Royal Parks, October, shouldn't be too hot. Pretty course.
It's actually great. I love that race. I always do it, but I'm not doing it this year. It's not flat, but it's just the right amount of rolling hills.
Great.
Right. Next,
I think we have another. Curious to know the weirdest pre-race superstition or ritual you both have that probably makes zero logical sense, but you're not willing to risk skipping it.
Everything I do makes logical sense.
Yeah, I don't think
I wouldn't be fooling around with anything.
I'm not really superstitious.
I do like to wee as much as I can, but that makes logical sense to me. I'm always trying to squeeze in as many wees.
That's amazing.
Did I tell you that I did that and a guy, did I tell you that I went into St. James? I don't think I did tell you this. It was very embarrassing. St. James's Park before the Saucony 10K a few weekends ago, the one that I tanked again.
Mm-hmm.
I really needed to wee, and there was a very long Portaloo queue. Mm-hmm. And Dale was like, no, let's go down in St. James's Park. There's plenty of bushes. Went into this bush. Yeah. Dale is standing at the entrance to the sort of cluster of bushes. I go in there, pulled on the running tights. A guy comes in from the other side, basically, right? He was like, sorry. I was like, sorry about that. But I said, my partner is supposed to be guarding the entrance, but he was on the other side. So anyway, it was all embarrassing.
The two entrances.
But he was obviously going to do the same thing. But I was like, in the Royal Parks, taking a wee in the bushes, it's not really the done thing outside Buckingham Palace. But anyway.
Well,
so
I'll
apart
tell
from
you
having
one.
To have frequent wee breaks, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think that one. I always make sure I get up early, like at least 2 hours before whatever start line, and that I can drink coffee and hopefully use the loo. That's just like, that's not illogical, and it makes complete sense. But that's like, I'm pretty not superstitious or anything. That's something that's non-negotiable. I think the challenging thing there is like hydration, because I want to hydrate, but I don't want to pee all the way up to racing. Just now, a pro move. Now we're getting to real tricks. Pro move for guys, if you have to pee when there are other people around in some way. Most people, guys, it's easy to pee generally, right? So you find like a bush you can stand against. But when a guy stands in a bush and is peeing in the bush, it looks like he's peeing in a bush, right? Like there's no way to you can see any guy standing there like, oh, he's peeing in a bush over there, right? The real pro move for a guy is you get down on one knee.
No.
And you pee.
But you could be putting your knee where someone's peed.
No. You don't put your knee on the ground. You don't put your knee on the ground. But you get down as if you're on one knee. It's good. It's a little bit of good strength training here as well. It's like a little bit of like extra mobility, strength training. But you basically look down. It looks like you're kneeling down to tie your shoelace, and then you pee right there. right? This is a total pro move.
No,
like, no, it's all the guys. I know at least one listener here who is for sure like, when he listens to this podcast, is smiling and be like, yeah, I know. Because it's actually one you can do more. The real trick, like this is actually where I learned this pro move, is less running. It's like when you go to like a rugby game or you're out in public.
Okay,
like,
I get that. But
and there's lots of people around and you're like, I have to pee somewhere. And so you do this like, oh, I'm just going to kneel down the floor. And like no one, you just look like you're tying your shoelace, not like, oh, you're going to be arrested.
Because London, okay, the Portaloos are really bad, and then you're on this big grassy field, and my vision was I'm going to find somewhere and just squat quickly before.
Yeah.
But they've got so strict. There's signs everywhere like, do not pee on this field. Do not. And they were like, when they were putting us into our coral things, I was like, I have to wee. I need. There were security people coming and stopping the guys. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was there weren't very many women at all in my starting pen. It was so stressful. But I'm going to give you my pro tip for women. Oh. I discovered this at Paris or Berlin. But basically, especially if you're staying in a hotel, you know where they've got like the most luxurious hand towels in the bathrooms in hotels? Yes. Or you can do this with roller towel. You basically take a big wad, and you jam it really thick. So it's almost like a souped up, almost like sanitary towel, nappy vibe, okay? And you take that into the start pen with you, and you just squeeze out the last few drops. You put it in your pants, in your tights.
Oh, this is brilliant, Alice. This is great.
The thing I've been doing. So I just squeeze out the last bit, and then I just fold it, and I just stand. And then as I go past the bin in the pen, in the coral thing, I just chuck it in there. So I'm weeing, because the guys at Valencia, at Berlin, all these things, they are actually just taking a leak on the side, out the side of the pens.
Oh, really?
Okay, which a woman. Yes, in Valencia, I was one of the only women there, and all these guys were just weeing. I was like, no, this is not fair. So then I decided next time I will also wee in the pen. And I will do it
also wee in the pen. This is great. The quote of the
But I will
do
it in a big tissue. So you take a lot. It looks like you've got like, people will be like, why is that woman got so many roller towels, like whole roller towel? Let me tell you why. And it works very well. So anyway, that's my pro tip.
Okay.
Yes, and then what was the other listener question?
We got one last listener question is also, what's a piece of race day gear or kit you swore by that completely betrayed you at the worst possible moment?
Oh, betrayed you?
I don't know if this is betrayed, but I have this is sort of related to a pet peeve. I have a few times you go to races and they give you like a t-shirt or a vest or like a singlet, like the San Antonio Marathon gave a singlet.
Not to run in, surely. Oh, afterwards.
Well, you know, like as part of the race or whatever. Yeah. And so then you get all this stuff, right? And you're like, oh, maybe I'll try to use it. They're not in the actual race. I think that's kind of like not cool to use it in the race you're actually in. That's kind of like...
It's a bit amateur.
But amateur, really. It is really amateur, actually. That's like when everyone at the turkey trot is wearing the turkey trot t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
No. Afterwards.
No, not doing that. But afterwards, I remember like busting out that, and it was like, it gave me like the worst chafing ever. And it's like so often, and it's really funny. It's what made me this question. And then I realized as I looked in the mirror this morning, I was about to get ready for the podcast, and I thought I might change. But this t-shirt, it's like the Alamo Donut Dash 5K.
I've been eyeing it up. It looks very nice.
It is kind of, but you know what the funny thing about it is? It's like, so normally I would never keep a 5K t-shirt that you get as a race registration. And I certainly would never wear one. I'm like trying to wear the 100 miler because I'm like big and strong. But you know what this is? This is a really comfy t-shirt. I love this t-shirt. It's so soft.
Quite a retro look. I like it.
And it's got a little retro look as well. And it's like, you know, donuts, which is kind of cool. Will run for donuts at the bottom there. But and it's like it's the tide, the pep. What is with all these races giving you crappy t-shirts with like fabric that doesn't like either stinks instantly.
I've started opting out of those t-shirts.
Yeah, I've started to opt out as well.
The environment, and then I had big regrets because the London one this year was a very cool t-shirt, and Dale, every time he puts his on, he's like, "Look at the London t-shirt."
Oh, and you opted out of it?
And Paris, because I DNF'd, I didn't blimmin' get it. He also wears it the whole time, and I'm like, I have two.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have two responses to this. I mean, they're
two
not
responses.
Like, the only thing I would say is I think Alpha Flies as a race shoe. Now that once you've heard how loud they are, that betrays. It's almost like you can't like an Alpha Fly because there's so many jokes. I even made a joke in a race not long ago. I said, everyone can we hear the alpha fly approaching? And then sure enough, it sort of came past us.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
hilarious.
I think like that's kind of, I mean, it's not really the same as what the listener is asking, but I do have in the back of my mind, alpha flies, great shoes, but they're bloody noisy. And I think everybody now is like, oh God, here comes someone in an alpha fly. So that's kind of become a bit of the joke on the road. But I tell you what, talking about what you get at races, Valencia, first marathon I ran. Great, well organized, brilliant. You get to the finish, you're going to collect, and I love it. They gave a really nice bag with stuff in it. And then they also hand you bloody orange, okay? For the last 3 or 4 kilometers, all I was thinking about is I never drink full sugar, whatever, Coke. I know I just in my mind, I was like, it's a sports event. There's going to be Coke. And I'm going to get a Coke as soon as I get to the finish. And I was picturing the Coke, my mouth salivating. I'm literally picturing the bubbles in the Coke. Last 2 kilometers was getting me through. A bag with a bloody orange. And I was so upset. I was like, I've just run 42.2 kilometers. I am not peeling an orange. I want my Coke.
Alice,
not peeling an orange. This is not a time.
We got to get you into a trail ultra. It's like a smorgasbord of these aid stations and the finish line. There's like Coca-Cola. There's often quesadillas, sandwiches, pretzels, chips, candy. It's like anything and everything you could want. A Coke.
Who's peeling an orange after a marathon? No one's peeling an orange.
No one's peeling an orange. Watermelon. Exactly. You just want a big chunk of watermelon. You can just munch juicy. Straight into juicy And then the real pro tips, they often have some salt you can sprinkle on. So you can just sprinkle salt on your watermelon. Good. Okay, this was a great episode. We covered a lot.
Send in those listeners' questions. We love them. And
keep sending them in. And we will catch up next week. Bye, Alice. Bye.